Welcome, and thank you for joining for another whiskey review. Today, we're going to take a look at the Bunna 12 cask strength. Bunnahabhain, excuse me. 12 cask strength.
We always say Bunna, though, man. Come on.
We always do. Bunnahabhain. It's a great word. It rolls off the tongue.
Yeah. Well, it's also a lot easier to type Bunna than Bunnahabhain. It's a lot of letters.
That is not the easiest one to spell raw. This one comes in at 56.6% ABV. And Dustin, it's been a while since I've had a Bunnahabhain review on this channel. We've done a couple of 18s, a 12, and the 25, but a distillery that we love. And sometimes I tell you what, some incredible whiskeys come out of here, like that 14-year-old PX cask and a few others. But when we heard that the second incarnation of the 12-year-old cask strength was coming out, had to get our hands on this one.
This one's getting some better reviews. So that kind of led me to picking this thing up because I did pass on the first round. I just didn't hear enough good. So I'm really excited to try this. It's
sherried, spiced, and unpeated is what they say.
Yeah. And Mike, one thing I did notice, just kind of talking to some people, they had the impression that this batch 2 is distinctly different from batch 1, which makes me think that Bunnahabhain wants the 12 cask strength to be kind of like Elijah Craig barrel proof.
A little different every year.
And that's a little different. It's kind of a more, crafted thing versus like, let's just kind of keep a consistent whiskey, which one for us geeks means we got to buy them all.
And for them, it means they don't have to be consistent. Everyone wins.
Yeah, but also that means there can be some really good gems that could be hidden. And I was told This one, people were saying they thought it had some older whiskey in it. Let's find out.
I tell you what, Dustin, from the first time I smelled this thing, it smelled like old sherry. And I said instantly, this can't be 12 years old. It has to be older. It has to be.
Here's the first thought I got when I nosed this thing, Mike. And I'm just going to go right back in here again. And it's still there. This reminds me of a couple years back, I went out and I bought a 20-year-old Lestau, I believe, which is, famous sherry, I don't know what they're called now.
Bottler, whatever.
Bottler, yeah. Well, not
Producer,
yeah. Anyway, I'm very, raw in my experience having, sherry whiskeys. And I remember thinking to myself, this tastes and smells truly nothing like I'm used to getting in today's, whiskey. And then I smelled this and I was instantly like, that is like a 20-year-old drinking sherry.
Yeah, this smells so old. The sherry note on this. It's the first thing you pick up. Bunnahabhain is always, a little nice sherried, unpeated Islay whiskey. This is, even the 14-year-old PX is, I don't know if it's a more sherried version of this whiskey. And it is so rich. Comes off so old.
Yeah, to me, this smells like sherry, not whiskey again. I'm just like...
Bunnahabhain's a pretty light spirit. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I do get like a barley kind of husk kind of thing there, mid-palate, which makes me, think, okay, 12-year-old Bunnahabhain sounds reasonable. It's not super old. But man, for the most part, I'm just getting old, just dense sherry. God.
Yeah, it comes off so much older than 12 years.
Earthy, woody, so much wood. Again, and the wood smells like it's coming from the sherry, not even the sherry cask. It's coming from the sherry. Like, these are wet casks.
Mm-hmm. I've said a couple of things about Bunnahabhain. The 12 is the best 12-year-old standard offering in the business. As far as regular 12-year-old whiskeys, Macallan 12 or, Balvenie 12 Double Wood. The 12-year-old Bunnahabhain is one of the best 12-year-old whiskeys in the world, in my opinion, for a regular release, mass-produced whiskey you can get in most places. Yeah. I've also said the 25, at least the old one, if you don't like that whiskey, you don't like whiskey, because it is incredibly approachable, beautiful whiskey. This is just like the 14-year-old PX. There is absolutely nothing not to like about this whiskey. And if you like beautiful, sherried whiskey that has a nice malt that gets out of the way and really is cask-driven, you will like this whiskey because it is cask-driven and it is sherry.
I think some people are going to probably find this too oaky. I think some might find this a little too earthy. And I think if you've been drinking your regular Bunna 12, you're probably looking for a softer, fruitier sherry note than this is giving.
This is not a Bunna 12 that's cask strength. This is a Bunna 12 cask strength that has a completely different cask maturation than the normal Bunna 12.
I absolutely adore what I'm getting on the nose here, but I can see where a lot of people are like, man, that's too earthy. It's almost got a nuttiness to it too, man.
There is a nuttiness, which I get in a lot of Bunnas. This is just a dirty, earthy sherry bomb. It feels like Dunnage floor sherry.
I feel like I am in the Dunnage warehouse for sure.
This comes off like Campbelltown, Highland Park 28, Highland Park 26, sherried Campbelltown, Highland Park whiskeys.
Earthier, and it's also got a nuttiness to it.
Hazelnut, walnut kind of thing going on.
What'd you get this for?
75?
I thought you said that. We need to talk
74?
We need to talk about that afterwards. I need this bottle.
Yeah.
I'm serious. I need this bottle in my collection.
Yeah, I might pick up another one. I mean, again, it's $75. Here in the States, it's $60 for the regular 12. There is a little shipping cost that gets factored into that. But yeah, I mean, just as you guys can see here, I mean, it's got nice legs, oily. I think 56 is beautiful on the nose here, Mike. Because alcohol didn't come through, not offensive. But I got to stress this, guys. This is earthy sherry.
This has to be first fill. Pungent, rich, old world sherry. I say old world because I know it's not artificial or like a lot of the sherry casks that I get in a lot of whiskeys now. There's something different about this sherry whiskey. Either these are old casks or this was fresh sherry. The source was different than what you traditionally get from Spanish sherry oak casks. I can't put my finger on it exactly, but
Like I said, Mike, I keep going back to this tastes like a cask that had sherry in it for 20 plus years, not the traditional 6 or 8 that you're getting today. This tastes like there's been 20-year-old sherry in there.
this is a rare scenario where $100 or say sub $100 whiskey, depending on shipping and where you can get it, is a true buy.
I mean, this is
I love Bunnahabhain spirit anyway. I don't have a lot of Bunnahabhains just because,
they put out like 60 fight fish shields every year where you're just like, which one do I buy, guys?
right, yeah, the different cask maturations, things like that.
They're a difficult distillery to buy unless they're your go-to number one distillery.
Well, the problem is like Lagavulin, it's very hard to get their bottles for us here.
You have to pay secondary to get those.
Correct. And you really don't know what you're getting. There's not a lot of people reviewing them, talking about them, and things like that. At least not in a quick enough time frame where I can get my hands on them. Mm-hmm. But I like all the standard offerings. As I mentioned before, 12-year-old is one of the best 12-year-old offerings I can recommend to somebody. The 25, I have said this about it many times, as I mentioned before. If you don't like the 25-year-old Bunnahabhain, you don't like whiskey. There's nothing not to like about that 46.3% perfect, sherried, light, easy, approachable whiskey.
Yeah.
Isn't standout, it's just nice. And I've always thought that about Bunnahabhain. But when they get creative with the cask maturation, like they did in the 14-year-old PX, and in this one here, they can become special bottles. And like the 14-year-old PX that was way underpriced initially and way overpriced now.
Those are really expensive now.
This to me has the same feel, Dustin. It really does.
So I've got to kind of bring back the view here because I've got a different view on this whiskey to a degree. This is not something I really gravitate towards and enjoy. Is that oakier, heavier sherry note, while it's an obvious sign of incredible quality, it is kind of masking, kind of overpowering the Bunna malt, which, as you noted, is not a super beefy malt to start with. It is very earthy. It is very oaky. The nuttiness actually is something that's coming through nicely. And so it always gives me a little pause on this one because I think there's going to be a lot of people who may be turned off by that.
It is a whiskey that is driven by cask maturation. Mm-hmm. It is a very cask influence heavy whiskey like the 14-year-old PX. That's why I keep I keep comparing it back to that particular whiskey. Here's the thing, Dustin. The sherry is a huge overcoat. Huge, obviously. The cask is the show here. And if you're a person that gravitates to a Speyside heavily sherried cask strength cask, you'll like this whiskey. Mm-hmm. I hear everything you're saying, though. Mm-hmm. The sherry overcoat's probably coming from a young spirit. Probably these casks weren't special before they put it in the secondary finishing and whatever the sherry cask was. But
I think this might be just full maturation, honestly. I mean,
you think so?
I mean, to get that kind of...
Maybe.
Now, see what happened with water, Mike?
Made it red?
Look how cloudy that got.
That's a good sign.
I have never seen a modern whiskey get that cloudy at this high in ABV.
That's a good sign.
This is a sign of incredible quality from Bunnahabhain. And what I was getting ready to say, Mike, because I have had this a few times, is that oakiness that kind of bothers me a little bit with water cuts it down a bit, and it makes this so much more enjoyable for me as somebody who doesn't like oaky sherry as much.
Beauty of a cask strength whiskey is you have that option. Mm-hmm. That's why I like the option of a cask strength whiskey always. And you're right, a lot of that Scotch Myst. You know what that looked like when you put that up there? Because I hadn't noticed that before. It reminded me of the old Lefroy 10 cask strengths, like batch 4. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They don't get cloudy like that anymore when you add water.
Yeah.
Like there's a different process to some degree.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm blown away by whatever they're doing. I mean, I don't know if you guys are picking this up on the camera, but I mean, like, this is like going from like red sherry to like orange pulp.
Yeah.
Like it's orange juice with
like
heavy pulp.
like
I mean,
Tang.
it's that.
It was like a Tang color.
Actually, it kind of is. I mean, it is cloudy, and this is not the first time I've done that and noticed just how crazy.
So what we're saying there is, whenever you introduce water into or cold into cask strength, super unfiltered single malt Scotch whiskey, it develops a dark, gritty
Mist.
Cloud. They call it Scotch Myst. They're being kind.
Well, usually it is a mist. This is a cloud.
Yeah. So
This looks like something from like 80s and 90s.
correct. It's something chill filtration takes out, and you never see in 43% whiskeys, and you never see in Macallans and things like that. And really, in modern whiskeys, you don't see it to this degree. So this is very something old.
This is a sign of quality right here that you just don't see anymore.
I tell you what, man, it's the most northern distillery in Islay. Mm-hmm. Last one to get a road right to the door, which I think came, I'm sure, in the 70s or something. But a little cut off. Maybe they just said, you know what? We're just rolling these barrels out and throwing them in a cask and see what people think. This is, for me, a cask strength, super overcoat lover. Mm-hmm. Of all those lovers of other things in whiskey. A super fun treat.
Nutty, chocolatey, now spicy with water. This goes from a whiskey that I respect and think, you're an old stately, you're an intelligent, well-done whiskey, I'm going to give you a good score. But you're not for me. Water. This, buddy, is for me. That water makes this whiskey into a whiskey I actually adore. And that's what's cool about this one for me is you obviously loved it without the water. My enjoyment score was low. With water, boom. I've never had anything like this before, Mike.
Give it to me. What's the score?
I'm giving this a 90. I could be convinced that I'm bringing it down and I should go higher because my enjoyment isn't quite as high. I'm going to give it a 90, Mike. This is incredible. I cannot believe this is a 12-year-old whiskey.
My enjoyment of this is like a 95. I kid you not. My enjoyment of this whiskey for someone who just likes super overcoat, punchy sherry whiskey, it is so high. As far as the whiskey score, yeah, I'm at 89, 90. I'm right there with you. I mean, I'm right there. There is nothing wrong with this whiskey.
How can you give it an 89? Honestly, I feel like I'm low on 90.
You're right.
Like, this is a 90 minimum.
There is nothing off-putting about this whiskey. It comes off far older than 12 years old.
Far.
Cask strength, super oak, cask-driven, like just any, like the Cadenhead 28s or Cavalon, 10-year-old that we have. You're right. It's absolutely 90. That's what I said. My enjoyment of this whiskey is a 95. I love this whiskey.
Wow. Honestly, Mike, one of us should just go buy 4 of these, two each.
Yeah, I mean, when you got it, I was like, I'm not really...
Bring that shipping down and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, no doubt, man. This is an epic
From
bottle.
the first pour, I was just like, this is old school sherry. This is drinking sherry casks, which you just don't have in whiskey anymore. I don't know that I love drinking sherry cask as much as I like somewhere in between. Mm-hmm. The standard, not so great. Mm-hmm. And this... Tell you what, though, man, there's something special here. This is magic.
It's a bomb of whiskey.
This is one that I think everybody, I don't know how much they made of this, but this is one of those bottles you buy a couple. And you're going to need these for later because I want to see if Bunna 12 in the future can come close to this.
Yeah, this is reminiscent, and I probably shouldn't say this till we'll put it off far enough before we get our hands on them first, but this is reminiscent of the 14-year-old PX to me. It was way undervalued at first. Then it blew up as far as price. I'm telling you. If you're watching this and they're still reasonable, get your hands on this. You know what? But all day long, this has happened. Long Row 15 Red,
Yeah.
Hazelburn 15 Oloroso. Like, we've just, man, there's been some bangers.
Here's the thing. For our UK fans, we're sorry. We can't get these fast enough to beat you guys to market. For the US guys, these have not hit US shelves yet. I think we're about a month ahead on reviews. This will still not be on shelves yet. When you see this, it's going to be $100, $110. Buy two. Don't buy one. Buy two.
Nah.
If you don't like it, trust me, you'll have a friend or somebody who will pick it up. You will not lose that money.
If you like heavy sherry, get this whiskey.
But yeah, again, heavy oaky sherry. But again, if it's too oaky for you, a little drop of water brightens it up. It's like they built in a safety net. Oh, if they don't like it, we've got a solution. Drop of water. It's not the proof that comes down in the mouth. It's the wood kind of spreads out and brings out some more fruits.
It's a fail-safe.
God, it's good.
Until next time, Dustin, what do we wish the folks?
Happy old world drinking.
Shocker. Little surprise. Under
Yeah.
$100. This is one to get. We'll see you next time.